right, thanks so much, and welcome. Looking at electronic source data, we know that a lot of what we are doing is moving into the electronic realm. A little bit about myself, I'm obviously a trainer, but I'm also an auditor. So when we get to go out, we see a lot of different uses of electronic systems. Some are in alignment with the regulations, and some are a little more homegrown. So we'll talk about some of those differences and what the expectations are from the FDA, certainly when they come out and do their inspections as well. So we'll look at initiatives in the current regulatory climate leading to eSource guidance, why we are where we are. We'll look at the 3 tiers of data management in terms of who ultimately has the last word, so to speak, on reviewing that data from the site level. We'll look at the investigator's responsibilities for the origination of electronic source, ensuring integrity and review and release for processing and retention by the sponsor and others. We'll look at the implications of the final guidance that the FDA put out in 2013 on electronic source documentation practices and policies as we, whatever our role is as a sponsor, as a site, as an IRB, a CRO, or another vendor, move into that electronic source world. And we'll also look at the FDA's expectations and inspection processes for that electronic source. So all that will be packed into the next 2 hours. Source documents are those original documents and records that we use to support the information that goes into our case report forms, and then, of course, ultimately onto the regulatory authority. So these include really anything that you have to document how that study was conducted, who you saw, who visited whom, all of those areas. And these include information that we would find at the site level, for example, and data that's recorded electronically, so from those direct download from those automated instruments. So we know that there are a lot of different sources of information coming into our systems. Sometimes we have systems that are more robust and that they can be populated by electronic systems. Sometimes we are entering directly into that laptop. Sometimes we're still transcribing from paper. But we have to be mindful of how all of this information is coming to us, because our job, no matter, as I said, where we are located and in which entity we are working for, we have to make sure that that data is verifiable. And we have to be able to trace it back to its origins, because the FDA will be asking for those things. We know that we are required as sponsors to maintain records as well as investigators and IRBs. But investigators are required to maintain adequate and accurate case histories. And that's one of the top findings that we see with the FDA in terms of their warning letters, that we didn't have those records. And these are findings for investigators as well as sponsors. So they're required to maintain adequate and accurate case histories that record all observations about that study. We have to indicate who was involved in the study, that they were eligible to be in the study, how they were exposed to that investigational product, et cetera. So regardless of the type of system that we're using, whether it's paper or electronic, the FDA believes that data should meet certain requirements. So whether we are using all paper, all electronic, or a hybrid, we have to make sure that that data is reliable and usable for the FDA to be able to come back and verify it to make a determination about the safety and efficacy of our product. And that's ultimately what we are looking for, that everything that is built around subject protection of rights, safety, and welfare, and data integrity is reflected back in the documentation that we have gathered or generated to support that claim. So we're going to look now at what the FDA will ask when they come out. So I want to ask first if you are familiar with the FDA's compliance program guidance manuals. So these are the tools that the FDA uses and provides to their inspectors for going out and doing their assessments or their inspections of sponsors, CROs, and monitors, clinical investigators, and IRBs. So if you're aware of those, if you could give me a green check or just let me know, or a red X if you are not, and we'll make sure we get those out to you. Okay, so you're aware of those. Great. So it seems to be more folks are, which is good. So I always say those are the answers to the test that the FDA is providing with us. But to put it in the context of what we're talking about today, the FDA is going to come in and look at sponsors, CROs, and monitors under 7348.810 at your collection procedures, your data handling and collection procedures. And they want to see your written procedures. Now, we know that the FDA does not require, or federal regulations do not require sponsors and investigators to have SOPs, but just IRBs. But we see in this guidance document about 18 SOPs that the FDA will be asking for when they come out, because they want to be able to review those and understand how you make these processes function uniformly.